following some random trail when you have a compass in the woods is perfectly fine. Nothing bad ever happens when you follow a random.
I'd follow that tree anywhere.
You I think you joined the cult of that tree.
I mean, I might have started it, but.
So they end up by going through the woods, and of course they encounter a deer that has been hung in the killing tree, dismembered, but it's still dripping blood. And so they go along, and then as it turns out, you find out that this creature has followed them through the woods, and it is the size of these trees. So they end up by getting more lost in the woods. They're running from this thing, and then one by one, they all get plucked off. I said plucked off. I didn't say anything else. They get plucked off one by one. And then they end up there's two of them, Stupid Leg and the hero, in a cabin, in another cabin, because cabin in the woods. Of course they are. And of course, there are villagers who are perfectly normal hill folk. They're just perfectly normal, immortal witches who live in the woods and pray to an ancient tree spirit who gives them immortality for living in the woods and praying to it. So win-win, right? Well, the older witch decides that she has an eye for the hero, but she doesn't want to give Walter to Stupid Leg because Stupid Leg is a great sacrifice for the tree spirit. Long story short, hero breaks free. Stupid Leg gets sacrificed to the tree god. The hero breaks free, steals a gun, ends up by blasting his way through, sets the house on fire, runs from the villagers which are now being killed by tree spirit because angry spirit. So he runs and runs and runs. The tree spirit picks him up, throws him to the ground, picks him up, throws him to the ground. It seems as if he wants this man, who is marked by him, I failed to mention that, is marked by the tree spirit as a worshiper. He is supposed to stay and worship, and the tree spirit shows this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to worship me, worship me, worship me. And then he runs and runs and runs, and he ends up by being just outside of the trees. And the tree spirit yells this guttural, animalistic yell at hero. And then so in a moment of empowerment, hero, now that all of his friends are dead, turns back to the tree spirit and says, "Ah!" That's it.
Okay.
That was definitely, for sure, informational. And I loved it. And I felt like I was watching the movie all over again. So just in case that wasn't quite enough, Heather, do you have some more in-depth information for us about the ritual?
Yeah, I can go ahead and give you some background, and then we can go from there. So just to go through, I know someone asked what movie this was. This was The Ritual, and I flipped my cards over here. I got these Vanna White cards here. Yes, this was a Ritual released in 2017. It's a British movie. It was originally seen at the Toronto International Film Festival and then picked up by Netflix. They paid over $4 million for it. I think 4.7 is what I wrote down. And then it's since made 1.5 million. I think 1.6 million. So it's done pretty well so far, but it's not breaking the box office. Again, it is streaming, so we'll see what it does. It was filmed in Romania, so our Sweden is actually Romania, in the Transcaucasian Mountains, I believe. So it is. What was that?
I'm a Transcaucasian.
Similar to that, thank you very much for clarification. It was directed by David Bruckner, and just a shout out, he's a UGA graduate from Georgia, where I am from. And this is his second notable film. The other one was called The Signal. And let's see, those are sort of the basics of what we're talking about. So now there are a couple other movies called The Signal. There's one in 2025. There was one in 2009. There's been other ones. This is the 2017 film based on a book called the same name, The Ritual, written by Adam Neville. That book was released in 2012. Adam Neville is British, so that's where you get the British side to it. The movie is a British movie, but the director is American. Adam Neville is British. It got a number of awards, and he's written some other things, but we'll talk more about the book in a little bit. Let's go to the third thing. So folk horror, what exactly is this? We've returned to folk horror, one of my favorite genres, of course. What is it? It is a form of horror, is a horror movie that is very specific in the way it approaches things, usually very atmospheric, usually involves nature and the woods. It usually has some kind of pagan ritual or some kind of superstition. Often isolation is involved. It has rural settings. There's definitely what would be considered backwards practices by people, rural environments. And again, we see the dichotomy between nature and the wild. So other movies that we have since done and reviewed that are considered folk horror. We already did The Witch, Midsummer. Hereditary is borderline, I think, as far as a folk horror. Of course, Wicker Man, which is the one everybody goes to when we talk about folk horror. Blair Witch certainly is folk horror. Hellbender, another one, and there's plenty of other ones. These are just ones that are notable that we've reviewed, and there's plenty of other ones to talk about. If you're watching a horror movie and there's woods involved, there's cabins, there's notes of witchcraft or magic, there's any kind of sense of maybe a devil or a creature, there's ritual, definitely ritual, and even ritual that breaks boundaries of what is acceptable, that sort of idea of acceptable versus what might not be acceptable in our society. There's a dichotomy of that. Isolation, it's in the middle of nowhere. All of that is probably most likely you're watching a folk horror movie. And we'll get into more about that. I want to talk a little bit about aspects of this that I really enjoyed later in terms of folk horror. But I'm going to move on to something else. This is very rare in our review of movies, when we talk about witchcraft movies, that we see heathenry represented. We've seen it in a couple of places, but in this case, we see it very pronounced. So the first thing I want to talk about when I talk about heathenry, and I was using the word heathenry here in modern pagan terms, I'm using it as a practice where people are reviving or basing their practices on Norse mythology. And so this is a modern term I'm using, heathenry, not just meaning anti-Christian. But the first thing we want to talk about is those runes. So the little etchings that they keep seeing, this is not Blair Witch Project where it's random things. These are actually ruins. These are runes. There they are right there. Those are a few of the ones that are hanging. So there's two to note here. The center one you see there is the Algil's rune. And that is a symbol of protection. It is a spirit. There it is. It's for spirituality. It's for insight. Okay, so it's a specific rune. This is part of the Elder Futhark. This is, again, part of Norse mythology. These ancient peoples had, it's not really an alphabet, they're symbols that meant things. And this is the Elder Futhark. These are part of those symbols. So you have the Algil symbol, Algi's, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Algi's symbol rune right there in the center. The other one is a little bit more interesting and a little problematic. So this is the Othala rune, also called the Odal rune. This one is a symbol of heritage, inheritance, property, the final place, the place, your home, that kind of possession of things is what that is. Now, the one, if you could put that one back up, lovely producers. Can we see that one again? There it is. That's the Othala rune. That's the one that's the Elder Futhark rune. However, this rune, it's interesting that it appears so much because this rune was then co-opted by the Nazis. And you will see this rune with feet. And can we show that rune? The other one, I think I gave you a picture of it. This is the Othala rune, also called the Odal rune, that has feet. That is a Nazi symbol. It was co-opted. So we don't see the one with feet in this movie, and I don't think that was the purpose of its use. I think they just picked one that was more recognizable. And the reason why that Othala rune is very recognizable to the general populace as being Nordic is because of the Nazi co-opting of it. So that's a really interesting. Some of the other things we've seen are not, I didn't recognize. They may have been like ogums. I think some of them looked almost like ogum etchings from the UK druidry and stuff like that, but I did not recognize them specifically. But those two are very markedly, definitely elder Futhark ruins. And that ties into the last thing I want to talk about is getting back into there they are in the tree. Those bottom etchings look more like ogums to me, but I am not an ogum expert. I will be soon though, because I'm working on a book soon about that. Anyway, back to the connection to Norse mythology. They do mention in the beginning that the people must worship Odin in the land. So they do mention Odin, of course, part of Norse mythology. And they also, but then find out that this creature is a Jotun or a Jotun. I can't remember how she pronounces it. A Jotun in Norse mythology is a giant. And they say that this Jotun is a bastard son of Loki. Now, Loki is, yes, in Norse mythology, Loki is also a Jotun. He lives in Aesir. He lives with the gods, with Odin and all the other ones, but he is not one of the Aesir. He is actually a giant. He is a Jotun, according to Norse mythology. So they're really relying heavily on this. However, the character Moder, this monster, the word Moder is mother in Swedish, does not actually exist in Norse mythology as far as I can tell. Now, I can dig further. I have experts. I am in a hotel and I don't have my resources with me to dig any further at this point. But from everything I can tell is Moder was created for the book and for the story. And it means mother for whatever reason. We can theorize about that. But he is supposed to be the bastard son of Loki. Loki did have a ton of sons, did have children. So it is, so it's roughly relying heavily on this Norse mythology, which of course, if it's Sweden and any of these northern countries had similar type of mythology. So this is really interesting for us because normally when we do witchcraft, and witchy movies, we don't see a whole lot of this. So I love seeing the usage of this. And I think it adds a different flavor to the movies that we review here. And that's all I'm going to say until I get to talk about the woods as a character later. And I will do that later.
I'm so glad, Heather. I'm so glad that they used the correct symbols because otherwise they might have ruined the movie.
I do my best to please Richard Lale. But I think, given that I haven't read the book, I couldn't do a good analysis of it. And so I think there's a couple of folks here who have read the book, Courtney and Scarlett. And I don't know, Jenny C. Bell too, maybe.
No. I haven't read the book since probably 2012, but I do, and I read some of Adam's other stuff too, but I do know like something that he's really good at is this is kind of a mixture of folklore, the mythology, and then weird fiction too, because he's obviously heavily influenced by authors like Lovecraft and by Algernon Blackwood. Like Algernon Blackwood's The Willows, any of Lovecraft's short stories, and mixing then the kind of Nordic mythology in there, and making this that monster exists only in Adam's mind. That is a conglomerate of whatever he's come up with. It doesn't actually exist within Nordic mythology. But the book is really interesting. That thing that that bother that, you know, in a book you have more time to flesh out your characters. The characters feel a little one-dimensional. Like I'm kind of like want all the bros to die. You know what I'm saying? Like they're all problematic. I'm even the hero I'm not really rooting for. But in the book it's a little bit different because you have much more time with them. Did you have that same feeling, Courtney?
So I actually, it's funny because I just, like I think I said earlier, I just finished the book today. So there's some things in the book that I love. I love his writing. I love the story. I do, like you said, it's more fleshed out. So there's more of not just character building for the characters, but also for the monster. Like it builds a bigger sense of dread. It seems bigger and scarier and whatever, because it's, you know, it's half the book. It's following them through the woods, but in like ways that we just don't understand yet. But there's also a whole thing, like the mother aspect comes into it in the book. And I think it was one of my favorite parts. Honestly, I was reading and I was trying to get through it, just like early this morning, and all of a sudden I was awake and my jaw dropped, and I was so excited because at some point there's a woman, and as he's escaping he shoots her, and he goes to look at her body, and her body has goat legs. So in the book, like in the movie, it's more of like a deer elk looking kind of thing when yeah. But in the book, it's called like the big black goat of the woods, and it's supposed to be a goat. So he's talking this whole time when he's being held captive in the house that he can hear this little old lady's loud footsteps, and then he makes the connection when he sees her body on the ground that the reason why her footsteps were so loud is because she had goat legs. So she was calling to the monster, and she was the child of the monster. So the monster was the mother. And then the bodies in the movie that he goes up in the attic and burns that are all alive but really old, that is also an incredible scene in the book, which gives it a lot more context than it does in the movie. I'm glad they showed it, but it didn't really give it a lot of context in the movie. And those are also children. And then there's also these other things that they're seeing in the woods that they're calling their children. So it's like this god, this big black goat, the mother, is, you know, kind of spawning all of these things that like could come all together in the end. And it's amazing. Like that was my favorite part of the whole book. However, character-wise, I hated all of them. I hated all of them in the movie. I hated all of them in the book. I especially and in a way, I'm not like, not that they weren't written well, but in a way that like the way they were written, I was not rooting for them. I was not rooting for the main guy at all. And I feel like another thing that the book gave us, it was a lot more cat and mouse than the movie was, which added a lot more to the dread. Like I think they did a really good job in the movie with like the visuals and everything else. I think it was awesome, but I think it was one of those where like, oh, now's his chance and he's going to survive, and oh no he's not, and then oh now he's going to try again, and he's pushing and pushing and pushing and trying and trying and trying, and he never gives up, and he's surviving and he's surviving and he's surviving and he's surviving, and it's and you're exhausted with him, and he's just like, how can he keep going? But at the same time, at the end, I wasn't rooting for him to make it, because he just wasn't a person that I connected to in that way. Like I was rooting for the monster. I was rooting for the god and for the people and the woods, frankly.
You know, and that was something that they did really well in the movie. And this is really tricky in these kind of movies, is having a monster like that. And they did a really good job of like showing a glimpse of it here and showing a glimpse of it here, and then only showing the whole thing of it at the end, which is actually an interesting shot when it rears up and it looks kind of like the predator and an ant had a baby, you know, like it's nothing like the monster in the book, which is supposed to be, I think, a little bit like what's Lovecraft's Black Goat of the Woods. I can't think of what the name of it is, which is bad. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Like I hated all those characters. Like I was not rooting for them. They're not sympathetic characters. They're not likable characters.
But I think like that's the best part of it though, is like, why am I reading this? I hate these guys, but I'm reading it to like, okay, is the monster gonna get him? Like, can I see the monster get them? Which was awesome. That's like a great reason to keep reading a book. Sorry.
And some of these movies do end like that. I mean, that's the Hereditary ending. That's the ending of a lot of these where you wind up with, and the movie could have ended like that. Especially now, we're seeing a lot of movies ending on this non-happy ending where it's like, okay, well, this is what happens when you mess up. You know, you get eaten by the child of an ant. And what did you call it?
The predator. The child
predator and an ant. But I think go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. I for me, I didn't read the book, as I said, and I hear, guys, what you're saying. There was a balance problem with this movie, and I have to watch it again on the big screen when I'm not rushed and doing and involved in all of this. But the little I saw is there was a balance problem where I felt like so much happened right at the end and I wasn't teased enough. And I did enjoy the teases that happened, the sounds. I love the sounds, the crackling and all of that stuff. It had a little bit of a Blair Witch going on, but I don't know. I have to watch it again to be sure, but it sounds like you guys were picking up on a similar thing where I felt like there was a balance problem.
Yeah, and it does it's very interesting with like the distorted time and the way that it plays with the timelines. Like I thought that was really fun, but then it also had some story threads that were never fleshed out enough for them to make sense. Like the guy's wife showing up and being the god. Like I was like, and the same thing where in the book, it's a fantastic scene when they burn the children in the attic, but you don't know that that's what they are. You just know that these people live forever and that these are weird mommy people and that like one's moving its lips, and it's a nice horror beat, but in the book, it's actually really gut wrenching. And it's a vastly different feeling.
Yeah, I think too, one of my favorite
that's exactly what I'm feeling.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about this is how they did the monster. Like visually, this movie, I think, did an impeccable job. They did not, one of my biggest pet peeves with horror movies is when they show the monster, it's never as good as you think it's going to be, or it's never as scary as you think it's going to be. And in this one, it was better. But I think it is, I think there was a lot of things, like in the book, they didn't have that whole convenience store murder thing as their reason for being in the woods. Like that wasn't necessary. They didn't need that. They were just on a vacation. And, and then because we didn't have that, we were able to delve more into like the monster following that. Like literally half the book is them in the woods. And then the other half of the book is in the house. So it's like, there's more time to build that dread and to be scared. And I think I like the book more for that. So, but visually, I think they did a great job. And Jenny, we haven't heard from you. I'm sorry, I'm getting too excited because I just did all this work today to be able to talk about this.
No, I'd never heard of it. I watched it and I found it refreshing that I feel like if this was made in the 1980s, it would have been a group of college-age girls in the woods. And so I liked that it was a bunch of guys that I didn't really care for. I'm like, if you die, that's fine. And so that was refreshing to me. I really did also like the monster. It kind of reminded me of like a Wendigo from American. Sure. Yeah.
That's,
and so that's where, I was like, that's really cool. I had a question for everybody. So when they stay in the first cabin and they come out and they see all the runes, do you think, and there's also like that effigy, do you think that if they'd stayed there, they would have been safe? Like that was a place of protection or not?
Not.
I don't think so.
And I want to know why.
No.
I think it was the temple. I think that was where, I think it is the temple that is where they worshipped Mother. But oftentimes when you are invoking spirit in a place, the spirit shows up in that place. And the fact that the spirit of the wood knew precisely what dreams to manifest, to terrify them, to break them into submission, to toy with them, to devour them. So I think that when in a ritual space, if you call upon a spirit, the spirit might just show up, and that's a ritual space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in all honesty, the minute that they went into the woods, they were not safe. They were doomed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And that's why he was safe when he walked out of the woods.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the book, there was the house and the chapel. There was a chapel and a graveyard, and they did sacrifices, I think, at the chapel, and the house was like basically a temple.
Yeah,
I think.
So I have a question, and maybe it's explained in the book. And like I said, you guys said it perfectly. Is that whole scene where they're burning people? It's not explained at all. Like I'm like, I don't know why they're doing this, but this is cool. I would have liked more explanation with that kind of like what is going on. But so the character, this monster is Mother. Obviously that's brought out more in the book, that it's called Mother, and they're worshiping it. It's Mother, and it's got children. But it's also called the son of Loki, the Jotun, son of Loki. So you have some gender crossing here, which I find very interesting because Loki himself or themself also cross genders. Loki is both appears in form as a female and a male, and cross and a horse and a number of other things. So I think it's kind of interesting, that connection. I don't know that the author of the book or the creator of the movie really was leaning on that or knew about that, but I find that interesting.
So
I'm just bringing that up.
In the book, I don't think they call him that or call her that. They or them that, but there is a character called Loki. So there's a whole different set of characters in the book than there is in the movie. For that last part, like in the house part. And so they do say Mother, and I think that's the part where I was like, oh my god, it's a Black Phillip, but it's mom. Like I was so excited. But I don't think they bring up and I don't remember in what context, but I know they bring up Ragnarok.
Okay.
But they don't call it that in the book. So I don't know what choice or what the thought process behind that was, but there's a character, a person named Loki in the book.
Okay. So slightly different in the way they shape that whole ending.
Yeah, it's very different. I think everybody should read the book. It's really good.
It is
And
really
what
good.
you don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, what you don't know about this character is that he was going to be the main character, and then they decided to make him low key.
Oh,
there you have it. Well, I would like to bring up one other point, is in a lot of these movies, and not just horror, not just folk horror, but in a lot of horror movies, but very specifically in horror movies, is the woods become their own character, and it's very, very key. And you see this in movies. There's actually a movie called The Woods that was done in the early 2000s. There are a number of movies where The Witch is like the perfect example of that. The movie The Witch is and I have in my book, I have an extensive area where I talk about the woods and what that means, especially in relation to women and women's power. And in fact, there's a movie in the 40s where that's directly linked, is the Wildwood is directly linked to women's power, and that's why it's feared. There's a whole feminist subtext there that goes on in these movies, and if you get my book, you can read all about it. But it's really, really fascinating. Here you have this again, a mother, and then you have they can't leave the woods, and again, it's male characters. And there's a movie that I have, hopefully we'll be able to watch it. It's on the schedule coming up in the next few months. It is very similar to this. It's not quite as atmospheric. It's a little more cheesy, but it's again the similar idea of a bunch of men going into the woods, and there's something magical, maybe lorded over by a woman, a mother, women, and they have to get out to survive. And it's a very interesting subtext that we could dive into if we had 2 hours and we're sitting around with glasses of wine talking about feminist film theory. So anyway,
anytime
that's
you
just
want to
my
do
little.
that, I'm up for it. I just saw Mother of Flies by the people who did Hellbender. I just saw the Shudder premiere of it. Same thing, Witch in the Woods. Woods have their own thing.
Connected to women's power. It is
Yeah.
it is subtext of these witch films, and it is something that is over and over again, and it is fascinating, and it's definitely a thread, and you see it again here, especially knowing that Motor, once you find out that that monster is Mother, it's
Speaking of Mother
it's
Monster, Patty Negri has gone to see Mother Monster.
Yep. I
We're
almost
not
made
anybody
that
tell
joke.
us.
I almost made that joke at the top, and I forgot because I was playing.
Hey, I was
and
gonna
then there's
say.
another movie.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I felt like because you said in the book the opening part with the robbery is not in the book, right? That's just for the movie.
Mhm.
And then, so it almost felt like this whole movie is very heavy-handed on survivor's guilt then, because he survives that, and then he's the only one to survive the woods. And it's like, I felt like, I don't know if there's some kind of commentary on that. And that's why they added that part in the beginning.
No, that's the producer saying you need to have a 5-minute, you need to have a kill in 5 minutes, and it's got to have a hook. And them going, okay, we're going to do this to this character because that gives him motivation for going to the woods and for everything that happens.
Yeah, and in the book they didn't need that motivation.
Yeah,
because they just were in the woods on a holiday, and that was just like, but like within I think a page. I think they're on like they're in the woods on the first page, and it's just it's unnecessary in the book.
Yeah, different artistic medium.
I also would like to point out too that in the book, I noted in the very beginning when I first started reading it, there was a lot of like time jumps back and forth in the book as well, and it was very disorienting to read. And there was a lot of things that would happen that I would read and I'd be like, oh, I missed that, and I have to go back and I have to like reread it again. Like it didn't click the first time I read it that was important. So it was really, it was very disorienting to read, which felt very on target for the movie. But when I saw I saw the movie before today, and I liked it. I loved it. Like I thought it was great. I thought the monster was great. And I was just confused most of the time, but it felt like that's what I was supposed to be. And I was just looking at shocking images, and it was great and I loved it. And then I read the book and I was like, now I can't remember. Like, was this in the movie? Like, is this? I can't remember. And so I put it back on today and I was like, oh, like now I get it all. So someone in the comments, who said it?
Robert Hicks.
Robert, yeah. Would the movie make more sense if you read the book? I think yes, but also I think that the movie can be appreciated on its own for what it is. So that's my 2 cents.
I think it was well done. I also liked the fact that at the end, even though I was rooting for him to die, he's not the only person I hope dies. There's a certain other person I hope dies. Nonetheless, I did want him to die, but I liked the fact that at the end of the book, at the end of the film, see now I'm calling it a book, the end of the film, he does turn around and scream at the spirit. In my opinion, the reason that he was able to survive, he was outside the woods. He turned and screamed because it was the pent-up rage of losing 4 friends in such a short time and to do it so violently. And he was truly, truly afraid. And sometimes when you are afraid, you really have to stand up and scream back into the darkness, into the night, into the void. And that can give you power. And I personally enjoyed the scream at the end.
Yeah.
I too scream into the void, probably more often than I should, but it is healing. All right. Any other opinions or insights onto the movie, the book? Are you all going to read the book now?
No.
Oh,
what?
Sure.
Richard Leal.
Was the book written in 1890? No.
I don't know.
I will say,
19th century.
I mean,
Did anyone?
as somebody who reads a lot of books from the 18th and 19th century, I will say this, that Adam is a very proficient writer. And he's very good at creating atmospheric dread, like pulling from the old fiction writers before him, and probably more talented than a lot of people. He also, I believe, lives out in the countryside in England. And so, I always love those writers that are actually, and I think he does like a lot of like swimming in the channel and hiking and camping and this and that. I always like those writers that kind of live the experiences that they're writing about, because it always has that breath of authenticity, and that's in those books. Like he's very, I mean, it is written for this age, but he's a very proficient writer, and he does have, like I said, a touch of the old fiction writers. He has a touch of Lovecraft. He has a touch of Algernon Blackwood in there. He's pulling from those same mythologies and formalizing them more for this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited. I just watched another, I think I was saying this earlier before we got on air. I watched the, I looked it up and I've lost it again. Another one of, there's a movie on Netflix that is based on another one of his books. And it was really great and very scary and really intense. And so I'm excited to read that book. And I've had Last Days on my reading list and in my Kindle, and I have, I think, two physical copies of the book just waiting to be read. And I've been waiting until a time where I can like really give it the attention that I know it deserves. And I can't wait anymore. After I finished The Ritual this morning, I'm hopping right over and reading The Last Days. And I'm very excited and can't wait. All right. So sorry, go ahead, Heather.
No, I was going to say, I was just going to recap is that just generally, this was not one of my most favorite folk horror movies. I am going to watch it again in a more proper format, but I did love the atmosphere. I love the way they captured the atmosphere of folk horror movies. And I think there was moments that, as far as I can tell from the way I watched it, which is not the way I usually watch films on a big screen, there was some beautiful folk horror moments of the woods in this movie. And so that I do remember, and that stuck out to me. So I am looking forward to watching it again in a proper format.
No, they do a good job with that. And it's got what it's called a narrative kill structure. Like the narrative kill structure is very, very accurate. My only bitch with this film is that I wish the characters were fleshed out more, that I wasn't rooting for them all to die. Like I wish it had a little more emotional resonance.
I think they were rather fleshed out.
Oh my goodness. Richard Leal is on fire today.
I just walked right into that one, didn't I?
Like the mummy people, like the mummy people, Richard Leal is too on fire. So fantastic.
There you go.
All right. So when trying to come up with quotes for this movie, I had a very difficult time because every sentence that they said had the F word in it. So I could not continue to, I was afraid that I was going to say it by accident if I tried to change it to something else, because I heard it so many times already. So I only have 2 quotes tonight, which is why I let us talk a little bit longer. But I snort laughed because when they were walking past the VW van, one of them said, "I got a hand job in one of those once at a festival." And then the other guy said, "Thanks, Phil. What a beautiful story." And I feel like I will say that to everybody about everything from now on. Great. And then after what did you call him? Broken leg guy? What did we call him?
Stupid leg.
Stupid leg. Okay, when Stupid leg hurt his leg and he was taking a rest, and then the other guy was telling him like he had to get up and push through the pain, and he said, "I am pushing through the pain." And the other guy said, "No, I think you're uncomfortable and you need to push through the pain." Stupid leg said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were a doctor. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a prostate exam and leave me in peace?" There was an F-bomb in that one. I took it out, but there it is. There was a lot of good one-liners in this movie. I really did enjoy the dialogue a lot. And a lot of it was like kind of what I would like to say to them if I was there, because I hated them all and I just wanted them to stop talking. So I would have also snapped back at them with rude things like that, which was great. So having said that, I think we're a little early, but should we vote?
I had a question.
Oh, let's do that first.
We all talked about how unlikable they are, and I was curious if we all think that was purposeful. And if so, why do you think so?
That's a good question.
It's purposeful because they're dude bros, and dude bros deserve what they get. There's a reason that there are lonely men who don't date anymore, because women can see through all of the BS. They can look through and see that they masquerade as machismo, and they wet themselves over a bad dream. Yes,
Yeah.
it's intentional.
I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I feel like I struggled because, and again, not to victim blame here, but when we make a choice, right, as big, strong, smart men, to cut through a giant forest in a country we don't know where we are and we don't know anything about, we kind of shouldn't be surprised when things start to happen. I don't know. I find it hard to feel bad for men when they do things like that. So that's where I'm at. Oh, did you like anyone in the Blair Witch Project? That's a good question. No, I didn't like that movie either.
Not at all.
I think that's a thematic thing that we could have a longer conversation with Jenny about that, and I think that's a case. And there's this movie that this reminds me of that I said it's an indie movie that's not quite as atmospheric, has the same thing, and we could go down the woods, equal a women's power. We could go through a number of things currently, what's going on with the world. There's a lot of reasons, I think. And I would think it is a choice. Now, it may be the fact that the movie also, what's pointing to what Scarlett said, is that they probably didn't flesh the characters out. And it may have been different if they had fleshed the characters out better. But it also may have been a choice. And I think that's the interesting part. Sometimes, especially in the last 10, 15 years, we're seeing a lot of movies where there's characters we're not so sure we like, or we like only because it's not like they used to be, where there was a solid character, always a solid character for us to cling to and say, yes, we like this character. It's stopped being like that. And I think maybe it is a choice.
Well, maybe
that's a long conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the monster, though. Like, that's who I clung to. And in the book, too, fleshed out characters and all, however much they were fleshed out in the book, I still didn't like them. And I still rooted for the monster.
Somebody in the comments asked if we liked anyone in The Wicker Man, and who doesn't love Christopher Lee as Lord Summerisle? Sorry. We all love him.
I'm going to speak for Jason. I'm going to speak for Jason right now because I can hear him in spirit telling us that Nicolas Cage is his favorite character.
No. That one does not exist.
That was Jason. Jason Mankey, who has authored 10 books. Jason Mankey.
That Wicker Man does not exist.
That's what he just told me. I heard him.
Oh, we lost Jenny.
Probably
she was so upset about it. We lost Jenny.
For Jason to say that. Jason, look at the chaos you're creating. Telling me to say that.
But we can have an argument about that, Scarlett, another time. I'm not a big Wicker Man fan, so
okay.
That's another one of those longer conversations.
Yeah, and I famously cannot stand Nicolas Cage at all times, except for one. Oh,
except in my movie.
I just can't stand him. I have a weird thing with the way that people's mouths move when they talk. It sounds insane, but something about the way that people's mouths move when they talk. There are certain people, because I think it's when people talk, I watch their mouths, and that's how I'm neurodivergent. That's how I do it. But there are certain thank you, certain people who it's something about. It's the same with what's that show, like Working Moms or something? Someone's mouth in that movie. I can't watch because of the way that their mouth moves. And Nicolas Cage drives me insane because
except for the one movie,
right? That's my favorite movie.
The one.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yes, that's brilliant.
Right. But every other time I can't look. So I have to watch it like this, and then I can't hear it because I can't look at their mouths while they talk. So
I mean, as Marilyn Manson, Dracula. I kind of liked him in that movie.
No.
I did like that.
No.
Okay, we have to stop this. Patty's not even here. She's the one that likes Nicolas Cage the best. Okay, that's enough. Look at that mouth. I can't. Comfortable. All right, let's vote. The Ritual 2017. One's up, one's down, one's neutral. Jason, I'm ignoring you. You can haunt me all you want. I'll hex you. I hope you enjoyed your flights, Jason. You're welcome.
He's still on the flight.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we have wands up, half mast a little bit. Ooh.
Yeah, kind
It's
of down.
like I'm trying and I just can't get there.
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't watch it again.
I
No?
wouldn't watch it again, but
Yeah, I would read the book maybe, but I wouldn't watch it again. So might
That's
have to go
valid.
down.
I'm going to
I
watch
think
it again so I
love
can
the
see it on the
atmosphere.
screen.
I would watch it again.
I have watched it again. Today was my second time. We have a wand almost up. Maybe we rewatch the movie, but as of now, I think wand down. That's fair. 4 or 5 up. 4 out of 5 up for 4 out of 5 dude bros. Yeah.
That's funny.
Validation. Yep. Love that. Love it. Wands up, Mary Jane. Beautiful. Yeah, you know what? I can't say that I disagree. I'm not hexing anybody for their movie opinions tonight because I understand where it's coming from. I feel like you should read the book. And then maybe watch it again. But all right. Heather, what are we doing next week? Do we know?
Vibes from the 1980s
With
Oh,
Cyndi
I-
Lauper.
with
Oh my
Cyndi
God.
Lauper.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
I have fun.
This is a
That's-
special birthday request from our producer, and so we are going to be watching Vibes with Cyndi Lauper next week. Tune in.
Love that. I am all about the vibes. So I'm very excited. All right. So we've got about 4 more minutes. Anybody doing anything exciting that they would like to talk about? Heather?
Well, Annabelle and I, or this is actually Mini Annabelle. This
Mini
is actually Mini Claire.
I've been
Mini
ignoring
Claire-
Mini Annabelle. I've been ignoring Mini Annabelle.
This is Mini Clarabelle, actually. Anyway, she and I are going to be hosting a doll workshop tomorrow at Sacred Space. We will be doing another one on Oz the day after I'm here. And then Jason and Patty and I will be attending Paganicon, another big conference at the end of March. We'll have more around the equinox. We'll have more about that as we get closer. And then I will be at Autumn Witch Fest in Texas a couple weeks after that. So right now I'm focused. Mini Clarabelle and I are focused on tomorrow and this wonderful weekend that we're going to be having at Sacred Space in Maryland.
Love that. Thank you. All right, Scarlett, what do you got going on? Where can we find you?
You can find me at www.scarlettamars.com. I'm also on most of the social media. I'm just finishing up a script, first draft of a new horror script called The Uncrossing, and I'm just going through and doing the last dialogue comb before I turn it in. And then Saturday, I'm teaching, I think it's the 6th class in a mythology series. It's called The Queens of Shadow and Sovereignty. I'm doing the class on Lilith, which I'm really excited about. It's one of my most favorite classes to teach. So that's me for this week.
Amazing. And Richard Lale, where can we find you? What do you have going on?
Oh, I'm really easy. Find.
Oh,
I'm on I'm on a lot of the medias of socials. Who knows with all of the I don't know. I'm on the medias of social, gentlemanpsychic.com, but I don't check my emails as regularly as I should. Also, you can find me here in New Orleans. I give seances and do tarot readings here in this lovely enchanted Victorian with, of course, I don't know that you can see it in, but there's my face in the wallpaper. You can't see it. Well, there's me right there. There's my face you can kind of see my face in the wallpaper over here with the crown on top. See my face in the wallpaper. It makes me laugh. You can come here and point out the faces of me in the wallpaper. That's it.
And Jenny, where can we find you? What do you have going on?
At the end of April, I'll be in Portland for Spirit Northwest. And that should be really fun. I'm teaching a class on how to craft your own spells. So we're going to look at all the different things people can use. And my goal is that people leave empowered to not have to go to a book, but kind of use what they have and what they know. I am an Etsy witch. It's becoming very popular with Gen Z. So you can find it at Etsy. That's on my website. I'm also on Substack, and so is Scarlett. And you should read her Substack. I'm a fan. It's really good. So but Substack. Thank you. I feel like Substack's a place we can be a little more honest and truthful and not have an algorithm shut us down. So if you're not on Substack, please join us there.
Absolutely. All right. I just finished up my anti-Valentine's Day tour, where I was there to hype up the crowd and then ended up having to do the last tour of the season with someone else. And so it went really well. Buckle up. Prepare yourselves to come to Salem next year because I think I had too much fun and I will be doing it next year. So you guys can come check me out there. Other than that, I am at the Femes on all the things, and you will find me in the movie theater because there's so many good horror movies coming out that I cannot wait to watch. And just as a quick, very exciting plug, I went and saw The Mortuary Assistant yesterday, which is my favorite video game of all time. And I was terrified that it was going to be terrible. And it was like a love letter to that video game, and it was like the most fun I've had at the movies in a long time. So thank you for making that, all the people that were involved, and I enjoyed it. All right, it is time. We have one last thing to do. What do witches do? We cackle.
Scream at tree spirits.
There we go. Scream into the void. Ready? 3, 2, 1.